Hello,
Oh,
my name is John Cornicello,
hello.
and I welcome you to my series of live interactive photo conversations. You can check the schedule at cornicello.com/conversations for dates and times of upcoming shows. You'll also find links to previous conversations there. My guest today is Blain Harasymiw. I don't know if I have the words to describe Blain. Our first 15-minute call to set up this conversation went on for almost 3 hours. He's a multi-theme photographer based in Japan. He's an explorer, has climbed several of the top peaks, but he hung up his ice axes after several mishaps. He still spends a month or more every year camping in the wilderness, and Blain is always seeking the defining image that characterizes him as a photographer. So take a seat, strap yourself in, and get ready for a ride. Please welcome Blain in Japan.
Hello. Thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it. John, thank you. It's nice to be with a group of people that actually know the difference between the shutter speed and what is it, the shutter speed and the f-stop. That's what it is. And the ISO and how to combine them together.
Yeah, I
Okay,
guess
what
we
do I
should first mention, though, that it's 2 a.m. where you are in Japan. So thanks for joining us at this hour.
really? I should just be getting ready to head out for a blue hour shot. Okay, can I go ahead and share screen?
Share
Is
your
that
screen?
okay?
Sure.
Okay, let's see here. Share. What the hell is that thing? Okay, we have a malfunction here. Share. There we go. And I am going to zoom. Okay, and now, how am I still in this pit? Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm going to go back to the beginning. Oh, here we go. I get all messed up all of a sudden. Okay, desktop. Let's go into here. There's my girlfriend. Don't look at that, everybody. Okay, here I am right here. This is where I'm, just so everyone can kind of get a picture here. My last name is Harasymiw. Japan is 3,000 kilometers long. We have 6,852 islands. You'll see at the bottom there is Tokyo. And I'm in a little hamlet that's called Ichizenhama. That's around 3 hours drive from Tokyo. Okay, I think that's pretty self-explanatory from there. Myself, I was born 400 kilometers from Churchill, from the polar bear capital of the world. That's me in the number 25, pretty cute kid. The two puppies there was actually, one of them was those are wolves, half wolf, half husky. And the one to the left there is the one that we kept when I was a kid. And we actually had a raven for a couple of years. That's another story. This is probably the first time I ever saw a polar bear. Sorry, the image quality is not the greatest, but these things are, how many years old? Move on from there. I grew up in a wilderness family. This is how we would spend our summers. 2 to 3 months every year going on a canoe trip in the Canadian wilderness. We're right on the tree line there. Kind of gave me the options of how to survive in the wilderness and prepare myself for the world adventures. That's an evening, a blue hour out on the river. My sister there standing up, my mother down, my brother there. And I think I took this shot. This is when we were just loading up the canoe and getting ready to head down the river for 2 months. And I think that's a defining time in life, beautiful moments. That's something that I'll never forget. Or, in the evening times, our entertainment at the evening campfire would be the northern lights and the loons and the timber wolves howling. And then my brother, a couple of times, he's wandering off because he wanted to sit around with us and he wanted his own tent. So he goes off a little bit and sets up his tent. The shotgun goes off at night because the bear's going at his tent. That's all right. That's not funny. So excuse me. I'll move on. Oh, what's going on here? Next. This is interesting.
Are you still in bridge?
Yeah. This is
There you
another bad image of my family canoeing. And this is me years later going into photography. My photography dates back to my early teens. I come from a visual arts family. My sister's won awards. I've won a couple. I've been a Nikon shooter for years in the field. Here's another image of me of one of my escapades here. I ended up in a river to visit my family, and I decided to go for a canoe trip. And these bypassers came along and said, no, I'm fine. Just go away. It's okay. Don't worry about it. And the one individual kind of looks at me and says, no, I don't think you're okay. Next thing I know, he calls the emergency services. Emergency services come there, and well, here's me right there, kind of hiding my face, and my dog actually popped his head up there, and I'm screaming at them. I said, shoot me a lifeline, shoot me a lifeline. And they're looking and say, well, what's that? And I says, well, down in your vehicle, you get a box, and it looks like a little shotgun, and you shoot me what's called a lifeline. And it gets a line, and it shoots it up to me. The first one they shot there, it got caught up on the trees, and the second shell was a dud. And it didn't go anywhere. So next thing, these two gentlemen in the Zodiac, they decide to come out to get me, but they have no idea what they're doing. They spend 20 minutes trying to get to me, and the whole time they're trying to get to me, I'm telling them to go back. And then the ice started to shift, and I basically picked up the canoe, put it on a piece of ice, and I was inshore in 10 seconds. And the police chiefs and we kind of went to the side each other, talked, and he invited me out for lunch. And after that happened, I just went and I canoed my merry way. They let me go because I had rescued myself. And we went for lunch a week later, and he checked my credentials and that, and asked me to train their people for water rescue. But I said, no, I couldn't. And I actually got a friend to help them out. That's kind of a fun story. And I'll take on any challenge that's anything that's there. Strangely, all of my negatives, I have 3 homes in Japan. I'm actually at my new home, and my other home is where I have all of my negatives, my positives from my mountain days. So I don't have those. So that was me back in Canada shortly after I met my wife here. And here's us in Japan. So I'd left Canada, came here, got married. I never had any idea, never wanted to come to Japan. It was a place I was going, yeah. So, but I fell in love with my wife and came here, and we're at a baseball game. We're just, it's pretty good seats. And here's me enjoying testing gear. So I continue with my photography, working with different makers. I've tested different gear, lenses, things that are just coming new out onto the market. They hand them to me basically for weather testing, bump testing. Probably the best one that I ever had, I had this 600 millimeter, and I'm on this hill, and I have the new, I think it was the F4, the D4S, I believe it was, and everything wasn't kind of stable, and it just kind of rolled down the hill and smashed. I said, well, went and picked up the next one. Here's another one of my wife and I. I will eventually get to some decent photography, just a little more. This one here, this was a defining time in my life. 7-8 years ago, I was an executive in a firm for one of the larger camera makers, advertising firms, and then I was in an accident. And I was in a wheelchair, and I was in the hospital for close to a year. I was in a wheelchair, and then I got myself out of it slowly and working myself through it. The kid here, Tomohiro to the right with me, I mentored him since he's a kid. He just graduated from Purdue. He's now in the US. We'll move on. This gentleman here, a Shinto priest, and this is a kind of a shrine in Japan, a power spot. And here he is walking up, and they believe at this shrine here that a rock holds a type of energy. You rub it on your body, and I let him pick the stone for me. 6 months later, I start to feel a little bit better. And that's just me holding a few rocks, enjoying. This is the house that I'm in right now. This house here, I wanted a traditional Japanese house. I didn't want something that was brand new. Where the gentleman is with the straw hat, that's where I'm sitting right now. And we had all the floors, the ceiling, we had everything torn out of this house. And my wife and I helped out with the house. And after we were done this house, I was able to put the crutches away and say, well, goodbye. So that's someone redoing the roof. And here's the house redone. And that's the room that's just right back here. Everyone can kind of see that, yeah?
Yeah. How old is the house?
The house is 100 years old. And in the back of the house, we have a 100-year-old cherry blossom too. It's a good sized home. In the middle there, we have the fireplace and the chimney, the smoke goes directly up. Here, this was the first hike my wife and I took, and this was to a shrine up in the mountains. And down below, they said that this was supposed to be, a 20-minute hike. It turned into close to an hour to get up there. And then finally, when we got there, we had no water going up the whole entire way. And I remember when we got up there, the trough had mosquitoes flying around. So I remember picking up water from like the little puddles and drinking it. And then when we got back down, it was just turning dark out. And then we actually read the logbook of people going up and down this thing. And then we read it, and everyone's saying, well, we turned back halfway. We turned back halfway. And we were the dumbasses that went all the way up and then went all the way back down. It was quite the experience, especially when it started raining. That was the first time testing my legs back out after getting out of a wheelchair and then getting off the crutches. Let's move on. Let's go next. All right. Here's my wife during cherry blossoms. It's nice to see her smiling. Beautiful woman. If it wasn't for her, that's another one of her just at a local park. Here's me in the house. And what was that, Jeff? I'm calibrating the screen. That's true. I'm using the Azo. And I was using the quick color match for a long time. And so now I'm going to be using the calibrating my monitor a little bit differently here. Here's kids coming over to the home for a field trip for the day to learn about photography and gallery and life of a professional photographer. Here's me during COVID-19. Instead of sitting at home and doing nothing, I thought, well, hell, I might as well do something, get the scaffolding put up at the house and paint it. And it took me 5 weeks to do it. And then the plastering ripped off the wall when I tried to tape it, and that was fun. But then I redid the plastering too. Up on the scaffolding. And then right after that, we went for a camping trip, my wife and I. It's interesting, here in Japan, we have over 100,000 wild macaques. But where there's 300 of them, that's where mostly everyone goes to photograph. I'll get to that later on. This is a traditional Japanese New Year's dinner around in the house, and the fish hanging and drying. And that's what's just right here. And that's me. I think Jeff saw that one. That was me just getting back onto my bike just this last month. Well, last month it was. And then let's get to some photography.
So we want to start with the blue hour.
Yeah, we're going to start with the blue hour. Here's one of my wife that I always like, her holding up a ship. This is in Tokyo Bay. Okay. Now, I'm going to start with blue hour. Blue hour for me it's a kind of a time, and I always look at something, it's like a kanchi of the Zen forest or a guide. Everyone has a belief, a spiritual belief or what have you. Spending so long isolated in the bush, I guess I have a little bit different of a belief. I remember this shot right here. I'm sitting back there and everyone's getting ready. We're at the base of Mount Fuji and everybody behind me is getting ready to pack up. And I'm like, whoa, where's everybody going? And I'm just like, no, 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 stop, 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 stop. I said, everybody get over here and get your tripod set up and look what's happening here. So they came over. I said, the cloud cover was coming down perfectly. We have the beautiful colors, and we have the Kanchi of the Zen forest is kind of calling out to us and saying, I'm here, I'm alive. And I think it's one of the, and everybody else was going off to the hotels to eat their dinner. And we had this entire place to ourselves. And this is this is a defining image. And I always look for the defining images that define me as an individual, as a photographer. And I know a lot of people, it's image quality. And if you have a good image and it's good for print, I say this is a good image and good to print. Here is at the same park, a woman giving her respects, a local woman praying to the local deities for respect. Here's another one. This is just after sunset. We got fortunate because the blue hour, the clouds had just rolled in, and we were able to, you get this, a much more rich lighting, a longer shutter speed. I was shooting here at roughly 30 seconds to 1 minute, up to 2 minutes in intervals here. And I love this time of day. This one is a little bit tight. And a lot of people, they completely ignore these parks that are around the base of Mount Fuji, and they're all sitting back and they're going into the tourist resorts and the touristy areas, and these places almost have no people visiting. It's amazing. It's actually kind of a godsend that we don't have to deal with all the tourists and the mess. Oh, sorry. This one here, a small deity. The deity is, it's actually for praying for children, this one here. I remember a client of mine, he was asking me, and he was standing behind me, and he was asking me about this deity here. I don't know, can you see that, everyone?
Yep, on the hill.
This one right here.
Mm-hmm.
He was asking me about this deity, and his name is Paul. He's a really good individual. He's from Canada, from Victoria. And I went on for about 20 minutes, and I was explaining to him that in Japan, there are holy spiritual animals. Basically, we call them Riji, and there's dozens. There's close to 100 of them. And I was going on for about 20 minutes, and I turned around and I'm looking at him. He's just sitting there. He has this smile on his face. And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry." I said to him, "I don't know this exact deity, what it represents, its actual meaning." And I said, "But when we get back, I'll find out." And he, no. He says, "This is perfect." He says, and then he said to me, when he was in Kyoto, the tour guide there had said, he asked a similar question. And the tour guide said to him, turned around, and she said to him, "Well, in Japan, we have good karma and bad karma." And I'm like, "What?" And Japan is basically a country of superstition. People are not religious. And so then you get people that are actually leading a tour that don't know the history, the culture, the sociology of the place. And me, I like to indulge. I like to dwell into the culture. I like to jump right into it. I want to learn. I don't want to be a visitor. A pond in the forest there. This is a picture of John. I love his umbrella. Paul, sorry. Paul, his umbrella is just, this is one of the most spectacular umbrella shots I've ever seen. And he used this umbrella for a few days. And this was another one here. She's the headless woman. She's the Lika. And this was a good night. And this is what we were shooting right here. The UNESCO site building. That's at the base in the Mount Fuji region. Also, the other thing about this one here, there's nobody around. Everyone's gone for dinner. at the hotels. And I think a lot of people that are coming to Japan, they're wasting a lot of their time sitting in the hotels, eating, drinking, and enjoying the good life when they should be out in the field doing something. There's another thing about this one here. It'll come across later. What do you think? Anyone? Questions?
No, let's
No?
look at more photos.
Okay. This is in northern Japan. This is a wisteria forest, but it's supposed to be cherry blossoms. My wife actually, when I was out there scouting, she asked me to take a picture of them. I thought it was interesting. This one here, this is just at the blue hour when it was pouring rain. And this is actually, I was with Paul, the same photographer, the same group. And I remember I opened the back of the vehicle. I said, it's a little nippy out here today. And I had this little bar there and I poured everyone a shot of warm sake. And they're like, oh shit. I said, well, it's chilly. So get a shot of sake. And so we kind of went out and photographed, and they didn't realize that in Japan, if you're not driving, you can walk down the street and drink, and kind of warmed you up. And in Japan, these types of places you just find right on the side of the road everywhere. I love the color of the bridges, the vibrance of them. And this is quite the downpour right here. Here's another. This is a different shrine. This is with John Franco from Europe. This shrine here is called Suwa. Across Japan, there's over 3,000 Suwa shrines. But the main Suwa shrines are at a place called Suwa-ko in Nagano. And it's kind of nice to be at the main shrine. And just above there, you're going to see a dragon right here. Can you kind of make that out?
Yep.
And for me, dragons and these mythological beings have always, I've always been attracted to them. I've always wanted to find what's there, what's beyond. And it's a driving force for me. Here's another shrine. This is up in northern Japan in Akita Prefecture. And this one inside of here, it holds national treasures, tankas. A tanka is a Buddhist scroll. And I really enjoy to be at these places just at the right times. The image quality is not great, but it's more the atmosphere of what I'm looking for. And whenever I show images, I want them to be defining. There's a little bit of Photoshop work here, but let's move on. This fast forward button don't like me. This is another shrine in a different part of Japan during the blue hour. The colors and the intricity of the carvings are something else at the shrines and temples. This one here is for the tigers. In Japan, 1,000 years ago, we had wild tigers here, but of course, there's no more, which is quite unfortunate. But they're still remembered in the folklore. Oh, sorry, I shoot out there again. And here, I'm going into a little bit of landscape. This shot here, this is a very unusual one. You can see it's kind of like a heart shape. There's only one place that I've ever seen a heart-shaped sunset or sunrise, in all of Japan. And this happens on the Pacific coast up in Hokkaido. And you have a peninsula going out there, and we're sitting back, and you get this heart shape. And for 20 years ago, I saw a picture hanging on the wall of the hotel. And the whole time I thought, no, this can't be real. And then in 2019, when I was out there, we were out there in the morning, and I got to glimpse the heart sunrise. It's kind of mind-boggling that it really did exist. Here's a picture of deer this is up in Hokkaido in February during the golden hour. and the deers, the Sika deer crossing the ice right in front of us there. One of my favorite places to go for golden hour shots. It has a certain energy of vibration to it. Back there, what we have, the mountain there is called Miniature Mount Fuji. It's a beautiful golden hour. Here, this is my local beach. I usually go down there. Oh, I could spend a week, a month. I go here almost every day, not knowing what to expect, what the light's going to bring me. And this is where the beginner's mindset really comes into play. Because you go somewhere, there's another person, Phil Ketcher, I believe it is. He shoots the same stretch of water every day. And he's done it for 20 some years, and he shares it all the time. On this beach, we just never know what we're going to get. It's just one of those spectacular golden hour. The image quality is not there, but the colors are, and I may get lucky one day with it. This here was a winter shot up the coast here, about 100 kilometers from me. And I have been to this location on 20 some different times. And it just, boom, everything just, the elements all came together. The blue hour came together. The back to the left there, we had a thunderstorm. The turquoise colors came up. And what I did with this, Jeff, can you tell what I did to the rocks? Anyone? They may seem a little soft.
Try to turn them into an iceberg.
Filters. I use filters on this one. What I did was I used paint, and a client ordered this one, and we were discussing it, and I said it just doesn't feel right because it was too jagged before that. So what I did with this one is I used the paint tool on it to soften it a little bit, to make it more like an iceberg, that it's moving. And all across Japan, what we have is known as kofun, the kofun mounds. And anybody heard of this before or no?
Nope.
Okay, when you go into Kyoto, if you punch in kofun, what you're going to see is you punch into Google KOUFUN, I believe it is. You're going to see a keyhole shape in Osaka and Osaka City, and they're called the Kofun Mound. And apparently that's where the imperial family resident, that's where they come from. Well, the imperial family are the caretakers of the Kofun Mounds, but they only recognize close to a dozen of them. But across Japan, we have over 170,000 Kofun mounds and villages and sites and architectural feats that have been done. Some of them have been eroded. I believe this one here, you can see right where my mouse is here, it kind of looks like a food dog. Yeah, if you can see that right there, my mouse is kind of disappearing. And this one, we believe, was once a carving in the ocean as a pointer, and then it was finally it eroded. Some of these are 3,000 to 5,000 years old, and definitely this one inlet here has carvings on it. Let's move on. Let's go to next. Okay. This is another one at the same location there. It's just a perfect blue hour, and this was actually in December when just when the rainy season is coming up. This is a pretty shot, pretty location to photograph if you like oceanscape, landscape photography. And the blue hour is a special time when you get these. This is Matsumoto Castle here. It's a beautiful one. It was built in the 1500s. It's an original castle. It's a unique one. the typical Japanese ryokan, Japanese, a typical place you would stay in Japan. They'd have hot springs, and your room would be just above in the garden there. They'd have a hot springs right to the left. This was actually where we were staying at one time. And we always pick these very unique places that where we stay that represent what Japan really is. And of course, they always have to have hot springs. If they don't have hot springs, I won't stay there. No, it just won't happen. The gardens in Japan, they had koi all the way through these ponds. This is Blue Hour just at the ocean, right by my house over here, 10 minutes away. And the Blue Hour has always been a special time of the day for me to go out. Always enjoy. Here we have rice terraces in Japan just before the morning rise. And you have to kind of hit them right at the right time of the day. No filters are needed for these. A good steady tripod is always important. I've had a few clients come out with no tripods, and I kind of sit back and go, what do we do here? So I've even had to order a couple here and there, but we always find a way to get around it. Everybody travels with a tripod, yeah?
I carry a tripod with me, but I rarely use it on my trips. I carried it all around Hawaii last week, and
you
just wasn't in the right situations.
No, well, you have to go with the Blue Hour. Blue Hour shots. This is most important, and this is
That's
just
nice.
at the sunrise, with the clouds coming up in there, and kind of like a mystical dragons coming through there. The blue golden hour, when they're just anticipating and coming up and hitting onto the rice terraces. Unfortunately, this day there wasn't enough water in the rice terraces. It was a little bit dry, but the cloud cover is always guaranteed, which is nice. And this is a landscape at a 14 millimeter, and this is at the same location here. And this one here, I believe, should be at the Photographic Museum. It should be on print. It should be hanging there now, I believe. This is, it gives the illusion of the clouds rolling over, and then the dragon, the snakes coming across. This is Japan mythology. And I had a haiku poet from the university actually do a poem on this one about the early morning in this region. We have 47 prefectures across Japan, and each prefecture has its own mythology. And this valley here is another valley that's known as the Valley of the Dragons. And we get these clouds that are far out that come early in the morning. And so a lot of us, we go up there, and we're up there. We start at 3 a.m. and the sunrise begins at around 4 a.m. 4 a.m. the Blue Hour starts. And you never know what you're going to get. And you just kind of sit there and you wait for it to happen. It's a pretty scene. Yes. Let's minus this one here. This is at my home in Kanagawa, just outside of Tokyo, where we get one of those rare blizzards that come up. I like this one. Of course, the moon is, I'd like to say it's natural, but it's not. And I put the moon in there, but it does not a bad job. It's not bad. What would you say, Jeff? You think that one's real or no? Yeah, no. I hear you. No.
Here's how I put the moon in. I don't know if you can see my screen at the moment.
I can see. But I just I enjoyed putting that one in there because it felt I did a diligence there, and it was a beautiful morning. We don't get these very often on the Tokyo side of Japan. It was a fun one. Oh, Yeah, that's at my home here. This was the last winter. This is actually where I am right now. This is our summer house. Uh, we're not going to be spending another winter here. No, this is Yukiguni, Snow Country, Japan. No, we won't be here another year. Now, this here is a photographer, a friend of mine. This is something I enjoy in the blue hour. I like to do wildlife photography any time of the day. And I like this one of the bird. I haven't done much with them yet. As a friend of mine who lives down the street from me, he has books and raw deals in Russia he's done with this type of photography. And I decided not to kind of step on him and let him go ahead with it. But I do like abstracts of birds. It takes a skill. Ah, yes. Right here, the Milky Way. This isn't a prefecture. This is 200 kilometers down the road from me. And the Milky Way will be coming very soon. And this statue of the gentleman actually sitting right there. And there's this one perfect time of the year that you go there and you get this shot, boom. And I got lucky this evening because it was supposed to be terrible, wiped out. And it was supposed to be just blackout, nothing happening. And on this day, on this evening here, got lucky. And it's one of these places where you have to kind of pull off to the side of the road quickly and get the shot. But so we got dropped off by our driver and spent an hour there photographing. The Milky Way is something special, the astrophotography. Something I enjoy. This one here again is just down the street from my house. Blue golden hour. And the colors here are rich and vibrant, and I didn't touch them up very much. But it is kind of slanted to the left, I noticed there, but it's a unique lighthouse. Here's me. I'm at Mount Fuji, and the cat from the local guest house, he comes down there and sits right behind me. Well, shit, of course he's welcome. Sits there to warm up behind me. He always does this every time we're there because he knows I'm down there, but I don't have any food with me. And so the local resident comes to check out what we're doing. And this was the morning shot we got that day. And you never know what you're going to get at Mount Fuji early in the morning. I would like to have a geisha or a woman in red in a boat in the pond. I mean, that would be real cool. There was nobody willing to go out there. Yeah. I'd even settle for someone in a bathing suit, but nobody wanted to go out. Mount Fuji is a unique one. You never know what you're going to get here. You just have to keep on trying and trying, and you never know. I photographed my house in the Tokyo region is 65, 70 minutes from Mount Fuji. So it's a quick bike ride and check out and see what we have. This is Mount Fuji from 150 kilometers away. And I like this type of shot. I like this type of day, this evening, where you have those hazy skies. Mm-hmm. The quality is not great, but I'll have revenge with this one time again when we have that PM 2.5 dust and coming in just at the right time of day. This here, this is that size is okay. This here is a viewpoint of Mount Fuji in the autumn period. And this one, I couldn't be happier with it. The skies like this, it happens very rare in the region where you get the autumn colors down below. Mount Fuji is perfect. That's Hakone Lake right there. I couldn't ask for anything better than this. And even the skies are perfect. It's very often you don't see the pink hues above there. And as everybody knows right there, we can't You can't Photoshop this guy in there. I can't anyway myself personally. Can anybody?
Jeff raised his hand.
Jeff,
Yeah.
you can do it.
Yeah, it's actually pretty simple. Color gradients. Either that
Yeah.
or take your photo off the web and strip it into another one.
Yeah, I've only seen
Yeah.
Mount Fuji once, and it had no snow on it. It was a Halloween a couple of years ago, right after some storms, and it was a bare top.
Huh. Interesting, because I always, yeah, I'm not that skilled in Photoshop. Oh, shit. I'm not that skilled in Photoshop, but so you're telling me the graduate pinks here that we could actually in Photoshop take the graduate pinks down to the blue and be able to blend them more? Is that possible?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really not that hard.
No.
You would do it on a separate paint layer, and depending upon the tonality, just have the layer set to color only, and then just
Okay.
paint in or use gradients to get the colors that you want.
Huh. Yeah, I didn't. Sorry, I didn't think it was possible. I'm not. I'm just a beginner. I'm a novice when it comes
On the
to
other
editing.
hand, not having to do it in Photoshop has some validity as well. So the fact that you actually got it on Pixel, as it were, you don't have to make apologies for not doing it in Photoshop.
Thank you. I got lucky. This is another one of Mount Fuji, about 100 kilometers away. Just when the sun is just going down there, and we call this Aka Fuji, Red Fuji. This is up in the Nagano region. This is another one of those unique skies, and it's something that I wouldn't even know where to begin to Photoshop before. But as you said, using the graduate and the paints, it does make sense to me. But I actually prefer myself. I prefer to use Lee filters, and I always carry the whole set with me the whole time. I even have the ones for the 14 millimeter and the glass ones, and I carry them with me diligently. If I need them or if I don't, they're always there. And I like to do things the old fashioned way. And I do appreciate the digital darkroom. It's just that I just want the natural as much as I can, that the sensor can see it. And then I have to take the color and visually portray it. And I feel I'm fortunate to see in color, because I have clients who are colorblind, or some that don't see reds perfectly enough. And so I feel fortunate that I'm able to capture something like this that is, it's a natural, and I don't have
Very nice.
Yes,
Lenticulars.
this one was a beautiful one. We were actually, I got this one with a drive-by. We were going from one lake to the next lake, and we had these cloud covers coming in over Mount Fuji. And I'm going, holy shit, what's going on here? Like a UFO is landing on Mount Fuji. And I'm going, okay, this is interesting. So I'm telling the driver, okay, come on, hurry up. Let's get to the next lake. Because we were going there's 5 lakes around Mount Fuji, the Fuji 5. And as we were passing, I think I got off 2 frames at this angle here. And this actually turned out, I believe, to be the best shot of this cloud, because the sun was hitting it just at the right time. And then I've seen a colleague of mine, he got shots at the lake to the left, and he didn't have the gold on the cloud, so his wasn't as dramatic. My foreground isn't that spectacular, but I still like it. This one here, oh shit, geez, that's something new. This is something I've never seen on Mount Fuji before, and I believe I have. Let me just take a quick look here if I have a selection of images here. This cloud coming over to the left there, the night before I was I was on crutches at this time still. I thought I would have been off them. And I was leading, I was co-leading with Jim Zuckerman. And I remember that evening I was discussing with clients and everyone saying, well, what lens should I bring in the morning? I said, well, make sure you have a 14 millimeter. Take a wide angle lens because you never know what's going to happen there. And Jim looks over and says, yeah, everybody take your 14, your wide angle, and 17 mil is fine. So we get out there in the morning, and the one thing that I have is I have my 14 millimeter on, and all of a sudden this cloud formation starts coming over that looks like a dragon. And yeah, Jim, he had his 24 to 120. He didn't get it. Yeah. Everyone else did though. But this is a once in a lifetime shot. I've never seen a cloud cover or any photo journals I've ever seen of Mount Fuji. I've never seen a cloud formation coming over like this. Never. Here's an interesting one at Mount Fuji. Another one, cloud formations that pop up every now and again. You don't get these all the time. They're almost once in a lifetime shots.
Very nice. That's great.
This here, we have to, what we do with this one here, there's a time of the year. It's 140 kilometers away from Mount Fuji. And we have a choice. We hike up the mountain. We take bikes up the mountain and or take motocross bikes up the mountain. Of course, we choose the motocross bikes, and the game wardens, they kind of leave us alone and we wait for it. And the town right there, that's the Suez city. The Blue Hour has a lot to show us and a lot to teach us. I think a lot of photographers the lighting is perfect in there, especially with models also too. If you're dealing with people, portraits, the lighting, in my opinion. This here is, again, another picture just down by the beach at my house. That's me just being diligent, going for the evening sunset and my daily bike ride, motorcycle ride, just to say, well, I'm here at the beach. And you never know what you're going to get. And this is one of the days that I got lucky. Oh, my name's, excuse me. I guess everyone's kind of wondering why Blain in Japan. Yes.
Well, that's where you are.
No?
How did you end up there?
How did I end up here? My wife. I was on sabbatical in Canada, and I met my wife in Banff. And other than that, no, I right now I probably would have been in South Africa or Israel. I wouldn't be in Japan. It would be Japan would be the last place I would be. I never had no dream to be here. Let's go to the next one. Events. What do you think? Events, commercial, sure. We have abstracts. Let's go to some commercial.
Okay, you pick.
Commercial photography for me, I did it for so many years, and I'm a little bit embarrassed to show it. Some of this is right here. When I approach these farmers, I've never done this type of photography before, which is agricultural photography with the actual models. I've never done it. Most of my photography has been with watches, precious stones, people, models. And as soon as I got out of the vehicles, these two gentlemen, they kind of seemed really uneasy, and I'm sitting back, okay, well, I grabbed my 120 to 300 and I went up the hill a little bit. And then I had my shutter release in my hand, and then I'm walking over to them. Oh, there we go again with that. That's a new feature again. And I'm walking over to them and I'm telling them really, really bad stories, and boom, I get the shot. And there's everybody has their different way to get people's expressions. My way to get people to express themselves, especially in Japan, is use a joke that's mixed half between English and half Japanese, and just hammer and just have the remote with me. Yeah, and luckily here the lighting was natural, and my softbox was the sky, and I didn't need any external lamps left or right. It's nice. I enjoyed these guys. This gentleman here, the rice is so good that they grow. My family, we go here every autumn and we pick up 30 kilograms of rice from them. And that's and we get water there too. And this year I think we're gonna camp out on their ground once they do the harvest. Oh geez, there we go, another new one. Here we went back there a few days later and photographing him taking the rice by hand. This one was an advertisement that ran in various parts of Japan, and you don't get to see this type of scenery. People have the impression, especially people who live in Tokyo or Osaka, as Japan is 70% unpopulated, and we have what, 70, 60, 70 some percent of the people living in the major urban centers. So they don't get to see these types of scenes. But this type of rice field is very rare. His rice brings per bag a 5 kilogram bag of rice in the store costs $20. His rice, 10 kilograms, right? $20 to $30. His rice is $50 to $70 for that same amount of rice. It's quite unique, and it's very delicious. But the water that's in this region here is very clear, and you can actually take your cup right into the stream and drink out of it. Japan is not a polluted country. We have so much pristine nature across it. But then, of course, we're not on the Fukushima side. We're on the other side of Japan where it's clean. And here, this one here, I kind of like the one where he's wearing the hat, and I use this for a flash page on the magazine. It actually got a lot of customers like this one here. Got a lot of orders from his rice from this one. A little bit of action in it. It would help if reading Japanese. Tomatoes. These tomatoes, yes, these tomatoes here are between $20, $25 for a box, and they're smaller than a golf ball. But they are the most delicious tomatoes I've ever eaten in my life. And one of my jobs is to clean up people who can't do the job. They have their resident photographer, or that's what they call them. Some of them are shooting with iPhones. I'm not knocking us iPhones. I mean, this is my phone. That's all right. I don't have an iPhone yet. I'm not knocking them. But what I do is I go in and I clean up for them things that they can't get. And so what we did here, I got the hand shot of the tomatoes right inside of the orchard on the farm. And then we went with this ad here. Let me pause that. And that's what I went with this here. I didn't want to originally go with this ad here. This wasn't, I really didn't like it, but they liked it and they were in a hurry, so we went with it. In ad agencies in Japan, it can get quite hectic, and we put in 20, 30-hour days. It can get quite stressful. And I'm sure everyone's heard of the suicides in Japan, yeah? At the ad agencies, no? Yeah, oh, that's something else. This is the shot that I wanted to use. They sell the tomatoes in one big box. I think this box was between $80 to $100. And we did all sorts of things with these tomatoes for 2 days. Put them in different shapes, photographed them different ways, and I just piled them in a bowl and shot it straight, and I like that. You know, I've never learned how to do reflections in Photoshop yet. I think it would be nice if the creators of Photoshop would make it easier for us to do reflections. Does that make any sense? No.
Yeah, you could actually do reflections pretty easily as long as you're straight on. It's the angle down. In order to actually get a reflection, you'd have to do two shots, one down and then one up, and
Yeah.
then flip the one that is shot up so that you would have a upward perspective. And so AI, AI is not even really all that great for sky replacement, let alone kind of a arbitrary created perspective. But I'll pass it on to the boys.
I've
Thanks.
done. Thank you. I've done, Jeff, exactly what you just said there. That's something that I do, and I've always hoped that Photoshop would kind of like give us something a little bit better to work with there. That's just a comment.
But that's almost like saying, can I remove the car to see the license plate of a car behind it? I mean, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's true.
That'd
So
be a great tool.
I still use plexiglass religiously.
Mhm.
I carry it with me all the time. Glass plating, plexiglass, white, gray, black, smoke black, and
I hope
lot
not
of
on your
times I have
camping
to-
trips.
yeah, well, some of them I do. Yeah. No,
Well, let's go on.
Here, this is a woman
Fava
with her
beans.
fava bean. These are delicious. These things only have a 2-week window here in Japan. Sweet woman. In the background here, there was a highway. There were buildings all back there, power lines, and I took them out. Made it look more natural. She enjoyed this so much that she hung it in her home. Gave her a copy of a poster size of it for her. She's happy. Oh, shit, what I do here. Sorry, excuse me. Sweet woman, sweet farmer, living just a few kilometers from us. Ah, yes, Watanabe-san. This is grapes. A good friend of mine. Very close we become. We actually are this year during COVID actually helping them with doing grapes because there's not many people to help with the work, and we're kind of like social distancing. I didn't like him, so I said, hell with that. I asked my wife to please be the model because he just didn't seem up to it. And so my wife turned out to be the model. There's quite a few other shots that we used and I other ones, but she was good about it. These are Shine Muscat grapes. Oh, come on. Is it my keyboard that won't shift or what do you think?
Yeah, go back, make it smaller, and then go to the next image.
Okay. Make it so click on it or minus it.
Minus it or roll your scroll wheel back.
Okay.
Yeah, go the other way.
No, it's
And
actually
now try arrowing to the next image.
no. Let's go out and I'll go in. It's something strange there. This is his main field. Well, one of the fields there, he has 7 or 8 houses that are this size at the orchard here. And in Japan, the way that the grapes are done, I couldn't believe that grapes actually have to be handled 6 to 8 times before they're actually ready for market. And now I can actually appreciate how much they actually cost. You know, because one bunch of Shine Muscat grapes are between $30 to $100 in Japan. Now I don't mind paying the price at all. I don't look at them as overly priced. Before down here, you'll see that it's white there, the kind of fence there. That was actually blue. So what I did was I just did the color selection and selected it and turned it to white, made it look a little bit more wide. They're really good grapes. Just a postcard quickly done for him. And then here was another one for his website to put up for his grapes. And then the Christmas grapes. The grapes, what they do here is they put them in a freezer, and they'll put anywhere from 50 to 100 bunches of grapes in a freezer and store them for the, until the Christmas season. And they sell anywhere from $75 to $100 per bunch. But these grapes are bigger than a golf ball. They're huge. Like, they're tasty too. If you ever get a chance, Shine Muscat grapes, they're a definite must to try. Especially with, I wasn't using wine there. I think I used apple juice. Yeah. This is taken on Sado Island. I remember I got this shot. I had this request to please come and do a lay for the festival, for Earth Day Festival. And I'm like, okay, well, we got time and we're looking at the clock. This is hilarious. Well, it's kind of hilarious. And we're looking at the clock. Oh, we got lots of time. The festival doesn't start for another hour. Well, when we got to the festival, it was over. And this was the very last dance. And this was my job to go to the island for 2 days. So I'm sitting there, I'm going, you got to be kidding me. There's only 2 more troops that are going to come out, dance troops. And this is the shot that I went with. And it saved my ass. But I can get the shot in 1 or 2 clicks. And I like it when I'm in a rush. And I like the way that the lantern that he's holding is going up against the other lantern there. And here again, I'm using my I was using my 120 to 300 on a monopod. And here they were coming out. This was I believe the second last troop. And I'm like, no, this just didn't work for me. It just didn't seem right. Their heads weren't all correctly done. And they just weren't being cooperative, and the shadows are terrible. And it was just horrible. And then here again, it just didn't work for me. So I think I got 3 shots out of that whole thing here. And we went with this one, and it saved my butt. Yeah. I was supposed to be at this festival for the entire evening. And I ended up there for 5 minutes. But when you kind of have, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
When you have the experience that I really like working at events. That's when I feel that I like working when I'm in a pressure situation where dancers, people are coming at me. There's lots of activity. I sports photography. I mean, that's kind of like wildlife photography. I look at sports and wildlife photography as almost the same thing, but with people and trying to find the right expression. This is what I'm looking for right here. And this is what they were looking for because of his stance, the gesture of him moving forward. And it said everything they wanted to say in the ad. This one here was another monster. This is a 3-day event. And the sewing shop, they wanted what actually happened here is another photographer was supposed to be covering this one. And the first day of the event, he made a mistake. And so I got called out to please go and take a look at it. And they wanted these models. And so they get ready and they come out about 30, 40 minutes before the procession for us to photograph. And I'm like, okay, well, this shot here, it just didn't do it for me. And I think I took 10 shots and I went with this shot. As soon as I took this one, I said, that's it. It's a wrap. And they agreed with me and they took this one and they ran with this one. This one said it all. The women and it was just too distracting. The facial features, the angle that they were at, it didn't portray what the garment maker or the sewing shop wanted to. You wouldn't say sewing shop or the maker. It didn't represent. This represented what they wanted to. It says the power, and her lips are there. I cut it right at the lips there, and the hand. I like this comment.
Oh, it looks great.
Okay.
So how much of
Here.
your work is commercial versus tourist?
Oh, the commercial work, I'm slowing down a bit here. And the reason I'm slowing down is because, well, I was on crutches, the wheelchair, the accident, and I want to have a little bit more of a life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm still rethinking. What we actually want to do is I represent artists, and I live in an artisans community, and I get to that after. The commercial used to be 80% of my stuff. I'm not interested.
Yeah. So what's the last year been like with COVID there?
With what? Sorry?
COVID. How's that affected you?
Me, well, I've been painting my house and riding my bike and going camping and staying away from people. This is my third pandemic.
Wow.
I went through 2 in Africa, and none of them were fun. COVID has been an interesting time, and we're not through it. We'll find out in a year or so where we're standing in the world.
Yeah.
And let's hope that this push is actually gonna do it. But what's happening in Japan? We've been in lockdown. I haven't been to the hot springs in over a year. I haven't eaten out at a restaurant in over a year. We've been in lockdown. I don't go out. I stay with my family. My family stays with us. And if we go to friends, we go. That's why we've been helping out at the Orchard. Because we just don't want to be in that scene. Yeah. And they asked me, well, what would you do? Go again. Must be my keyboard. And then they asked me, well, would you go out and do a shoot? And I said, no, I wouldn't do it right now. And the reason, it's just, I don't think it's safe yet. That's my opinion. Some reason it won't. Oh, there we go.
There it is.
This here, I've done a lot of archery, a lot of kyodo. I've done with the horseback riders coming directly at me. I've been right in the pit of fire. And this one here, this was over in Fukushima, and we went with this one here for the females. This was what they wanted me there for. I like the power. I like the pose. It says everything that needs to be said. Japanese archery can be a tough one to photograph. It's best to be right in front of them, in my opinion. But when you have that arrow coming at you, it's not the best position to be in. There's some very cool stuff and unique to photograph. This one here, I'm gonna bypass that one. Excuse me. That one, I have what do you call them? Non-disclosure agreement. Excuse me. I apologize for that. This is, I was doing for a bonsai shop, or for the plants. This is actually one of my own bonsais at home, and I put that little creature who's actually sitting right here. So
nice.
Little mythological one. And the beads that are down there, those are actually jade that come from China. And the bonsai is sitting outside right now. And here's something else I did for a shop for flowers. And these flowers, a very rare one. They're actually native to Central America, and they're a one-night flower. The Empalupium, I believe they're called, something like that. But they only last for one night, and the fragrance that come at them is just phenomenal. I did a series here with different ones for the flowers. I can't remember which one, or they went with one or two and they switched them off. Actually, the bolo is actually, I'm wearing that bolo right now. And this bolo was done by Arlen Ben in New Mexico. And then here I used one of my malas for the shot. And I believe I gave them all the images. They were used digitally for their website, is what they did for them to sell them. And the vase. It was the vase, I believe, and the flowers. It was the vase that they were selling, sorry. And I have just simple shots of the flowers, of the vase itself, but I really didn't like them. I preferred them with my own decorations. This was for a hotel. Actually, it was for a maker that does this type of work. It's very intricate, and today there's not many craftsmen that do this. This is true, authentic Japanese dogma, and there's not many. Not only a handful of craftsmen can do this type of work today. Maybe less.
Nice.
I'd say maybe a dozen in all of Japan. This is one of my passions has always been is stones. I've shot every type of stone that there is out there on the market. And my favorite stone is turquoise. So anything that I generally show to people, it's something that I believe that is me. It's going to define me at this one moment, but that defining moment, it fades so quickly. And then I kind of go on to the next defining moment. About the turquoise stone in the First Nations people America, there's a very special meaning for it, a protection. It has its own type of kami. A kami would kind of like mean its own spirit inside. This is another type of turquoise here, which is a pretty stone. A lot of, John, you did a video a little while ago that I really enjoyed, and it was about lighting, the realities of using lighting. It was a good video.
Thanks.
Because a lot of people that are using lighting, they're using it completely. They don't know what they're doing. It's unfortunate. There's a lot of myths with lighting, and it was funny because there's this one photographer I know, and he does stone photography on other types, and he sits back and he says, I don't use Photoshop. My images aren't photoshopped, and I kind of always sit back there. And I said to him one time on the phone, I said, well, I said, you're so full of shit. I said, the reason you say you don't use Photoshop is because you don't have Photoshop and you don't know how to use it. And the reason that you don't have lighting is because you don't know how to use it. And I think that's kind of the case with a lot of people. What do you think?
I don't know. I find people that can shoot outdoors to be actually pretty talented. I mean, I stay out of the sun because I can't control it. I stay in the studio where I can control everything. So, okay. I mean, there's just different approaches.
But you think stone, like I have friends that do stone photography outside, but shit, that is so unpredictable, especially when you're on a limit, when you're on a time. It's just This is another type of turquoise.
Interesting.
This is a personal one that I actually picked up from one of the collection that I was photographing. It's a Lone Mountain turquoise. It's a pretty one. Here's another one. It's turquoise. I have I've been collecting it since I was 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah, you had some shots. You had some shots of some basket weave products too. Are those in this group?
I believe so. They might be. This here, these turquoise pieces here, I collected these when I was 10 years old buying them.
Wow.
Yeah, those ones there, I used to stop at my aunts and my uncles and sit there all sweet and snuggle up beside them, and they'd give me $50-$100, and my brothers and sisters would walk away with $5-$10. They go, what the hell? Why we get so little and use so much? And I spent the money on stones. And those
Nice.
stones, when I bought them, they were maybe $10. Like this stone here in my polo, when I bought it, it was maybe $20. Today, it's you can buy a car for the price of it. That's how much it went up. I really like using plexiglass a lot when I'm doing my shots. It's comfortable. Yeah. This one here, this is what I use a lot of times, this particular piece. I have the bracelet in the other room, and then I have an image that I show clients that if I'm going to be photographing something, if I'm going to be photographing something, I want them to be looking at the image and looking at the photo, and I want them to match.
Mhm.
And we were talking about that when doing product photography. And a lot of people, when they're doing product photography, they're not using proofs and they're not explaining properly to the client what they're getting. So we see a lot of shoddy. I don't know if I'm the right terminology. I see a lot of shoddy work out there.
Mhm.
People not color bouncing and actually picking up what we're seeing, and then a client get their product, and if they're using actually a decent display with the right lighting, they have the right to be upset, because I've been upset by a few things that I've received because it's the photographers aren't just
Yeah.
that good. Have you ever done that? Complained when you received something didn't look the same?
At times, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, time to reshoot. But let's move on.
Yeah. Here's another one. This is enjoying myself. The reason I'm Blain in Japan is because a friend who was a director at the Smithsonian, I called him up and we do Native American stuff together. He said to me, well, I said, I'm changing my name. What, a new website, what should it be? He said, Blain in Japan. So I went for it. This one here, another pretty one, a museum quality piece. Some of them I kept in my collection or purchased them. This one here, it's 1940s, 1950s, not in my collection. This one here, a Sleeping Beauty. I got lucky and I picked this one up for my wife. A sweet piece. I like this one. I actually did outside, so
Yep.
there's a little bit of
It's obvious you
reflection.
like turquoise.
Oh yeah. This one here was for myself. We were doing a studio that day, but the TV just didn't look right in the center. It was really bothering me, that TV. So what I did with the TV is I put my own flower in it. I don't own a TV in my home. I haven't owned a TV for, since I'm a teenager. Don't have one. This one here, I got a call from an orange grower. He said, can you take a photo of my oranges in the snow? I said, yeah, sure, no problem. Actually, I just went out the window. This was in Tokyo. It snowed that night. And I actually clicked off my own oranges growing in my own yard. That was a sweet one. That was nice. that was easy. This one here, someone asked me, come over, can you photograph my koi for me? Yeah, sure, I'll photograph your koi. And all I did was I walked over there and I said, well, please don't feed them for a day. And I just picked up a big thing of food and threw it all over there and click, click, click. It was like, it was a 5-minute shoot.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of have to do a little bit of our research before getting into it. That's its opinion. This was for a bread shop doing a type of raisin. Sorry, excuse the Blain in Japan. It's really good bread. A German bakery in the Tokyo area, a friend of mine too. Here I was doing for a hotel, a front entrance. They did use it, and I actually cleaned up a lot of the lighting. Not the lighting, but the walls that are in here. On the one that they eventually did use, I actually cleaned these up. And it was difficult to do, but I got through it. This was a supermarket opening, kind of like your Peppers. And this is in film. This is 25, 30 year ago shot. Oh, pretty flowers. Right
that's the one I
here.
was asking about.
Yeah. Right here, the artisans in our town here, the woman that creates these baskets, she's two blocks away from me. Her husband, he cuts the actual, these are grapevines, and he cuts these grapevines. And it blows me away. He's sitting there with a file and saws, and he's actually, these pieces of grapevine are all there. I'm going, Jesus Christ, what's going on here? Then I'm looking at the price that they're selling this stuff for, the vines, because they're running workshops there. And it's just incredible, like $100 for like a little twig of weeds, but the amount of work it takes to produce these things. And these bags are $2,000, $3,000 a piece. They are. She does slippers too. What I'm doing in this community here is we have several artisans. We have a basket maker, we have a glass maker, we have a natural dyer, we have a dyeing of clothes. He does scarves and hats and wall hangings, and he uses natural dyeing. And if it wasn't for COVID, we would have been in New York, Paris, London this year doing gallery openings. And that's what we're hoping to do next year. It'd be nice to get back out on the road.
Can imagine.
Yeah, we really want to get out there. And I'm hoping for this October, the vaccine passport will go ahead. Let me stop.
Try escape.
Yeah, I use my mouse. Here's a glass artist here. That's actually the mother. This is the daughter. And I remember when I first discussed with her doing her glass art for her, and she was kind of like, well, she said, photographers all said to me, it's my glass is the problem. I said, huh? I said, your glass is not the problem. I said, the sensor is the problem. I said, we can't pick up, Jeff might correct me, we can't pick up the gamma. We can't pick up the right shades and tones on the color because there's too many. So what I did was I did the shots here, and then she sat beside me, and we spent 90 minutes, and I went around each of the colors, and I picked out each one for her. And I said, is this right? Is this right? And she told me which was right, which was correct, which was incorrect. And this was a fun shoot. And I really enjoy this type of work because it gives me a mental workout, and I can do something that other people, not many people are going to do. And especially the local ones in the region that I'm in right now, everybody gave up on her. And I like the challenge of doing something difficult. There's things I could improve on this image, but I think it's acceptable. Her glass art, though, does have bubbles, and I did want to take the bubbles out, but she told me not to.
No, the bubbles are part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's not bad work. I think I did okay there. Oh, let's minus this one. This one, I actually went for a reshoot. I said, I need to reshoot this piece. And when I went to reshoot, I said, I lied to her. I said, well, I lost the photos on this piece. And says, you what? I said, yeah, I lost the photos. She said, what? So I went there and I redid it. And the fucking piece this is how it looks. It's not a joke. It actually looks discolored and fuzzy. It's not in perfect focus. It's a very unique and unusual piece that I've not seen very often, but she has a skill set with working with glass that she's able to make some of it look blurry or unblurry or make it look pixelated. I've not seen many glass artists with this type of skill. And so that was the first time I've actually requested saying, can I please come back and reshoot it? because I don't think I did the shot right. And when I looked at this piece, I went, "Oh shit, you got to be kidding me!" Yeah, that was a fun reshoot. Here's another one of her bowls that I did, and we're actually going to be doing the next shoots with food in them. I'll be starting that in the day after tomorrow. And this was another piece here that we had to spend a couple of hours going over it. This one maybe an hour it took because we were getting a little bit faster and picking out each of the colors, because the camera sensor, it's not picking it up. It's just not working when you're working with this many colors. Do you find that?
I don't know. I haven't really done much work with cosmetics or things like that where it's super color critical. So
I love work. Color critical is a beautiful area. Oh,
I always say correct color is not always pleasing color.
The only thing I would say is that do you have a custom profile for your sensor for your camera?
No, no. What?
Okay, so one of the things that I do is Camera Raw and Lightroom. I presume you're using Lightroom, or are you using Camera Raw?
I'm using Camera Raw.
Okay, so it's based upon Thomas Noel or Eric Chan literally profiling a sensor, but they only profile one or two cameras. And in the context of manufacturing variability, your own sensor might be a little bit different than the sensor that they actually profiled. So if you get the color checker passport and the color checker software, you can make your own color critical profile using the X-Rite passport. And then the other thing is, depending upon your light source, what were you using for light on this?
The Godox 600.
Okay, so
they're using flash.
Flash or LED? Flash or LED?
Flash.
Okay, so flash will have a slightly different color reaction to the sensor, mainly because of the fact that it's not exactly the same as daylight. So creating a custom profile for your set of flash would actually help you kind of get a little bit better or more accurate sensor rendering of the colors. So X-Rite passport, I think, you can get them in Japan, and then you download the software to create a custom DNG profile.
And it'll work with Fuji, and it'll work with Nikon.
It'll work with anything. And in fact, you'll probably end up seeing that your cameras move closer together in terms of their sensor response. But the thing I was going to say is that since I sold my studio and moved to a new place, I still have my strobes, but they're a pain in the ass to use. And if something is not moving, I'll just light it with LED, because it's interesting to actually see and shoot the light that you're seeing instead of shooting the flash and using a model light. But the LEDs that I got, I couldn't get really good color just using, the white balance dropper, because the sensor response to the LEDs are pretty cool in terms of the light balance. And so I created the custom profile for the LED, and it's better than a daylight. It's also better than, so it's something you should look into. John, I don't know if you use custom profiles, do you?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
I looked briefly, someone mentioned it, but I will now, because I'm now doing a little bit more with my Fuji, with the G model, the new GS model there. So I'm going to start doing it. Thank you.
So let's move on from the commercial work.
Let's just go through a couple of pieces here. Let's see here, minus. This is a pretty bowl. That's actually for myself. Yeah, might as well put mine in there too, huh? And that was for a toilet. And that's a glass artist.
Nice.
Sweet person. And let's move up. Let's jump into abstracts. Okay. Oh, that's wrong. Sorry, excuse me. This one here, I always like to play with long shutter speeds and long exposures. It's just something fun for me. And I've never gotten anything quite like this. And I was at this, this actual location here has been open for 350 years at the base of Mount Fuji. And I have no idea what I was doing here, but it just looked really cool. And I can't remember where I was sitting, and I was just doing like a zoom lens and a flash and just kind of moving it around. And this is what it came up with. Kind of like me in the fire. And I always like to do the things kind of the manual way. Anyone get some stuff like this or play with stuff like this? Curiosity? No? Okay. Here, I always get, anytime that I'm shooting Japanese macaques, the snow monkeys, I want to see something a little bit different. I want to see them in motion. And I like things that are constantly moving. I don't want to see something that's ordinary. So when the monkey was coming down, I want to slow down my shutter speed and do a little bit of a little flick of the zoom and have some fun with them coming down. This one I really enjoy here because the leg movement is there and their arms are there. And I like the motion look there. This one I enjoy also too. So I plan on my next trip to visiting with the snow monkeys, because they're like models at the Snow Monkey Park, is doing mainly this type of photography with them instead of doing stills. Anytime that I'm in a vehicle, I'm constantly working with tunnels. While everyone else is sitting in the car and they're, you know, I'm sitting
I do
there
the
like
same
this.
thing.
Me, no. I'm wide awake and I want to see what's going on. I want to know. I want the tunnels. I want them alive, because the tunnels, they always give me a blast. I love them. Tunnels
Yeah,
are
I've
an
got many
interesting.
similar shots.
Yeah. Well, this one was interesting. This one was last autumn in a tunnel. You do this type of photography, John?
I do. I do.
What
Let someone else drive.
Yeah, this one I like. This one was a semi truck going through a tunnel in Tokyo. Kind of scratched my head at it. No, I've never actually, that one I've never gotten anything close to it again. And you got that little glitter of the gold on the top above it. Shit, this is like, I want to see this every day.
This one looks like an exit off of I-5 here in Seattle.
This is the backcountry in Japan. This is going from, I think, Fukushima to Niigata.
Wow.
And there's a stretch of road where it's going weaving through the mountains. I think there's something like 35, 40 tunnels in 50-kilometer stretch. They're just everywhere. Just never stop photographing tunnels. You get the walls going up against there. It's a lot of fun. You let someone know. This one is in Hokkaido, I believe. Yes. And then you even have to get the birding photography. I enjoy birding. A lot of people have mistaken me as a wildlife photographer because I am Blain in Japan. And that's the way that I portrayed myself, because it's just, I've always used a pen name for most of my work that I've done out there, and I've kept a low profile. And as I said before, the reason that I'm coming out now is because I have my own website and I'm doing my own thing, the direction that I want to take, and I don't want to be somebody else's not go to, but I just want to head in my own direction and do my own thing and enjoy life. Now, dragons, you're always going to catch me with them, and I'm never going to stop with the zoom lens. It's just going to continue and continue. You know, and here what I did was, after the zoom lens, I took the eyes on a still shot and I put them back in properly. I included this one in abstracts because it just didn't feel right. And what these are umbrellas for the winter for trees. And in Japan, they have these very unique systems where they'll have the one pole at the very top, and then the tree will be covered all the way through with string. So when the snow does fall, it won't break the tree. They're actually quite genius in heavy snowfall areas, and they make pretty amazing shots.
Nice.
Sorry?
No, it looks like it's hugging the rock.
This one is right in my backyard. This is actually, I have all the way in my rock garden, I have stacks of stones there. And it was just hugging the stones. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And I took this when I think out from my bathroom window during the snowstorm. It was like just something that was zen. It was beautiful. I should have actually included this in the blue hour. This one here, this is an easy one. What is it?
Is it a bowl, a glass bowl?
Nope.
No.
Any guesses? The only one I seen that actually did Bing bong.
Go ahead, Robert.
Robert got it.
It's like boats right away.
Bing bong.
So on their side.
Bing bong.
Okay.
I felt kind of terrible about doing this one here, but I didn't feel terrible. But the one person that I looked at this when I saw it, I saw Art Wolf do a few shots like these, and I remember that's what I had in my head when I was doing it, and so I went ahead and I did it anyway. But I still like the shot. It's a beautiful one, something different that I normally don't do. And I always like to, come on, let's go. Okay, let's get out of this one. And let's jump to the next, architecture.
I will say that that last shot, which is the one that you asked if anyone does anything like that, I've enjoyed shooting in bars when it's very dark and letting them just go blur. So you get the reactions of people and the relationships with each other. Just has always been kind of fascinating to me. I did a short video of that once, and the photos and the video ended up being part of an exhibit that I did a few years ago. So yeah, I do kind of like doing that. I forgot that.
That was with the boats?
No, with the scene that you had with the fire and the
the picture of yourself, the first one there,
right
that
there.
one.
Yeah, right there.
How did you do that one? I can't even remember how I did this one, to be honest with you.
I just a little longer exposure and just let it go blur. Actually, I think the ones that I like the best, I probably shot on film, on Tri-X.
Okay, yeah. This one, this one is digital, but I do have Provia and I do have Tri-X in the fridge, but it's I don't even know if this is actually probably the first or second one I've done like this, and I'd like to experiment with them more. It's a lot of fun. But where that video that you did, where may I see that? Is it still
I would
available?
have to find it. It's 8, 10 years ago. I certainly have it. I'll remind John to send me your email address, and I'll put it up somewhere and see.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Great.
Actually, it was shot. I remember it was shot at the downstairs bar at the Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles.
The Biltmore Hotel. Okay, I know this one. It's familiar. Why is that familiar? I'm trying to think here now.
It's a very famous hotel.
How so?
Been a landmark in downtown Los Angeles forever.
Okay.
I can't even begin to tell you all the things that have gone there. It's also quite opulent.
Okay. I'd love to see your work on this because it's something that I would like to take up and I'd like to do more of. And I've just not done it. And I was actually, the fireplace was in the middle and it's quite high. And those two young ladies that look like they're sitting across from me were actually right beside me. And it just kind of, it was an interesting shot. I really enjoyed this. It's a lot of fun. Thank you. I'd love to see
Cool.
that video. Please pass it on.
It'd probably
So
be
Blaine, we're coming up close to 2 hours here. So do you want to pick one
Oh,
more?
shit.
Pick
Just one more. Oh, well,
one more for
let's-
today.
Art City, autumn, people, power spots, spring, summer, autumn. Oh, shit. This is going to be tough. Just 2 hours? Really? Damn it. These things go too quickly. Let's go to, no, let's go to, oh, this is tough. Let's go to Spirited Away. Let's go to architecture. What do you
Cool.
think?
Sounds good.
Okay. Here we have the World UNESCO site in Nikko. And UNESCO's always been kind to me. Nikko is one of my second homes. It has 103 buildings inside of it. And each one of them has its own story. A lot of fun. There we
See more
have it.
dragons.
Sorry?
I see more dragons.
It's a type of dragon. It's an Iju Holy Spirits. But yes, it is a type of dragon. And this one here, this is at the water purification fountain where nobody looks up. And that's where you go and you wash your hands and you purify yourself and you pray and then you move on to the next dates. And I know nobody never looks up there. And I love this shot. So I just sat under there and looking, and it's just unique under there, but nobody looks up, unfortunately. This shot here, this is gonna kind of, it's kind of funny, but this is the river in Nikko. And everyone kind of looks as, oh, what's this? And then you look here. What had happened is when we were in Nikko, I was with my group, is a typhoon came in. And I remember that morning I was in the hot springs and I came for breakfast, and the hotel manager, it's a guest house, and the clients are sitting there, they all have this solemn look, and the manager told them, you have to leave, you have to leave, you have to run away. I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? Is he gone mad or what? You know, I just come out of this perfect hot springs with a beautiful forest there with a deer running across, and I'm like, this guy's whack bonkers. So what I ended up doing was I packed everyone into the vehicles and we head directly to the fire station. And I asked the fire department, what do we do? And he said to me, well, you're not going to go down because if you go to Tokyo, you're going to get stuck in the typhoon. And people who actually left Nikko, this was the highway, and they were stuck at the road stops for 2 days. And we were in Nikko enjoying ourselves because I stopped at the fire station. And the fire station, he was so happy to see someone actually have the brains to stop and talk to him. And so we stayed in Nikko and we enjoyed the typhoon, and we were out photographing during it. And everyone else was 90-some%. The tour buses were stuck here. Everybody else was stuck there. And we stayed in Nikko. It's been there since the 1600s, actually since the 800s when a monk founded Nikko.
Wow.
This was during the typhoon. It's completely dry. There's no trouble with Nikko. And this is one of the main shrines just after its reconstruction there. There's a lot of dragons in this one here. The detail on the architecture there's nowhere like this in all of Japan. Nikko, it has its good points and it has its bad points. If you know Nikko, you know what time to get there. My day at Nikko usually starts 3:30, 4 in the morning, and I go until the golden hour. But I know what time exactly to get out of Nikko, and we're heading up to the mountains to photograph waterfalls and other things. This one here, this is called the Sunlight Gate. It's all called the Twilight Gate. There's 500 carvings inside of this. 194 of them are 30 different types of spiritual animals. The gate is over 30 some feet high. The walls are 15 feet thick. And I'm missing some dimensions I know here. But the reason they call it the Sunlight and the Twilight Gate, because you can sit there the entire day and just ponder on this one architectural feat. The quality of this image is not the greatest, but I have a little bit better. But Nikko is a place that if you come to Japan, you go to Nikko. And my suggestion is you go with someone who knows the region. If you go with a local tour guide, I'm going to say a mama-san or whatever, like someone who doesn't know the mythology, the background of the history, she's going to end up telling you there's good kami and bad kami in Japan. As I explained before, what happened to Paul in Kyoto with the woman telling, well, in Japan, we have good karma and bad karma. And one of the keys to Japan and the holy spiritual entity, the holy animals, the Leiju. If you understand the First Nations people of Canada or the First Nations people of America, the First Nations people of Japan, whom are the Ainu, it's very similar to Shinto. Everything has a life, everything has a spirit, and everything, so this is the representation of it. So there you go. This right here, this in Nikko, this is the Leiji, the Buddhist shrine. Here, it opens at 8 a.m. I'm right there at 8 a.m., so there's nobody there getting in my way. This here is where I am at 4:30 in the morning. This is in the back country. Nobody goes here. And it's kind of nice to be there first thing in the morning. No people around. You're enjoying the moment, taking it in. This is authentic Japan, not what you read in the bullshit tourist manuals or whatever. You get on a tourist bus and join us. This right here, this is going up to the mausoleum to Tokugawa Ieyasu, the shogun. Okay, here is the castle. This is Matsumoto Castle in the spring. This is Matsumoto Castle in the blue hour. And this is Matsumoto Castle, an interesting shot that I got there. I've always been looking at this tree for a while, and I thought, shit, there's something with this tree, and I'm kind of going under the angle. And I love photographing trees, and it's unfortunate we can't do autumn photography because I have a lot of trees in there. Shit. Oh, well. Oh, shit. I lost that. So this was one of the more unusual trees that I've been able to capture. I really enjoyed this one of Matsumoto Castle. Matsumoto Castle has a lot of different faces to it. Here's Matsumoto Castle during the golden hour, just at sunset. I photographed this February of 2018. This is Aizu Castle in Fukushima. This here is completely off the beaten path. This is traditional Japan. This is 50 kilometers from me, an old thatch roof.
And forgive me, what camera were you shooting these with?
This I was shooting with, which one? Sorry.
The color ones, actually, just before this one.
This here?
Yeah.
Especially that one.
That would have been a Nikon. I believe it would have been a D810 or the D850, or it could have been the D5. Because I don't take my Fuji out into the field. It stays into the studio. Does that make any sense with the Nikon? How are the colors strange or?
Oh, I think it looks fabulous. That's why I was asking. Which Fuji do you keep in the studio?
The 100 megapixel, the G.
Oh, okay. The GX 100.
Yeah. It's a sweet camera. So I don't take it out into the field very much. What do you shoot with?
I shoot the Fuji small formats. I've shot the medium format, the GX 100. I've taken that out, and it is a load to shoot with. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And then I shoot Hasselblad digital.
Nice. I wish I could.
Okay, your Fuji is. I wouldn't go out of your way to change up to the Hasselblad. If I were shooting the Fuji 100, I would be most happy with it.
Thank you. Kids at Nico enjoying their days out. And this here is a road stop. That was actually the same place where I got that photograph with me with the fire in the fire pit. And you enter there. This place has been serving travelers for 350 years. It's been open at the base of Mount Fuji. This is a pagoda. It's an interesting one. It's a historical site. This here is another water purification center where you wash yourself before entering. During social distancing, these things have been closed. It's a little unfortunate, but it is what it is. I just love dragons. There's something about them. This is a actually the shrine. They opened it up for me to photograph, and he's moving everything around so I can photograph the tanka. And then he said, "Gee, are you?" And I actually had an appointment to go there to photograph it for a newspaper. It was an assignment. He actually moved everything off of here after, but can't show that one. This is an old home in Niigata. It's actually a museum. It was built 300 to 500 years, about 300 years ago. It's a huge place. You get lost in it. The garden is amazing. It looks just like this now. This here, John Lennon and Albert Einstein both walked up this staircase here. Of course, I had no choice but to use Photomatics and take, I think, 10 or 12 shots of it. But I love, excuse me. But I love the staircase and I love the dragons there. Anything that has to do with dragons, I'm there. It's just, and I just sitting there, I'm a guest in the hotel, and it's like, okay, do I have Albert Einstein or John Lennon's, And I know there's photos of John Lennon standing here in the hotel. And I know that one of those rooms, that was, I believe, John Lennon's room up there. And it's just like, okay, this is a cool place. I can get with it. It's a nice hotel. This is another one of Nikko. That's the rooftops of Nikko. This is a tourist on the tourist track in Tokyo. This is just a shrine building. I'm not sure exactly. This is in the base of Mount Fuji where I took this. I actually put my watermark up on the sign. And I would like to show one more.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, we're just about at 2 hours, so let's go through one more.
I'm going to do one called Power Spots, just for fun.
Nice.
Now, for me, power spots represent something that are either they have a residual, they have an energy to them, or they just have natural raw power. It could be thermal power, what have you. This dragon here is at the Suwa Shrine. And I joke you not, I've been visiting this dragon for 20 years. And for 15 of the years that I visited this dragon, I fell on my ass every time. That day I fell on my ass. And I swear to you, if this dragon wasn't there one day and I walked by and was like, oh shit, and he just comes and he lands, I wouldn't be surprised. It's just one of those. And the zoom lens effect on this one here, I enjoy. Oh shit, excuse me. And there's directly onto the dragon. It kind of looks like that alien type of creature. Does that make any sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
But it has a certain energy, a power to it. And I really love the zoom lens. It's a lot of fun. I like to create these things when I'm using my camera instead of having to do them after. There we go again. Here's another dragon that's actually at the same shrine. This one, the carving, I can't remember the exact carver who did it, but he's a national treasure. And people repairing this stuff, it's become a nightmare in Japan, people to actually be able to reform it. And this type of work, it's becoming a lost art, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
This dragon here, I actually feel kind of sorry for him. This dragon is actually, this is at Nikko. And this shot here, I mean, it's always bothered me because I've wanted to Photoshop it out. I have all kinds of angles of this dragon. And I just didn't know where to put it, and I've never known where to put it. And they built this road around the dragon, and around it used to be a park. And then they put this bloody, and they can't move it, because if they move it in Japan, there's a few places in Tokyo where they actually moved monuments like this, and they ended up putting them back because of certain things happening. You could say they were supernatural entities, etc., coming forth. So they'd never move this object because it kind of has you could say a residual power to it. And it's been there for 100 and some years, so they didn't touch it. And I would love to I have so many angles of it, and I just wouldn't want to take it and put it into a different scene, if that could make any sense to anybody. But I don't think that where it is does it any justice. It's a beautiful piece. This is a shrine that's in, again, Suwa. This is, it's kind of like a vortexal point. If you can feel it, some people may feel it, some people may feel nothing. I guess it all depends on the individual and the belief, and you get chills or what have you. Now, this one here, this is at the base of Mount Fuji, and we were wearing oxygen tanks on this day, and this is a volcanic activity after our earthquake in 2011. And actually, this is a few years back too. And we were wearing oxygen tanks and going into the forest and photographing it. And I really enjoyed it because you have the trees going down, and we're walking through, and the heat's coming up, and it's maybe 100 Celsius, 120 Celsius under us. But there wasn't any lava coming up, which was good. But we were still wearing the fire boots and the sats, and we had the masks on and photographing there. It was a blast. It was a lot of fun. And this was, excuse my name on it, but this is the same location where you see the power lines had all fallen over. And the volcano, this is actually in Hakone. And the Hakone volcano is actually a super volcano, and Mount Fuji is actually the baby volcano. So the volcano is still growing. So I love to be in volcanic forest. It's a lot of fun. And Mount Fuji, I want to see it blow. I want to be there. I know it's not a good thing to say, but I mean, I would love to be at Mount Fuji when it blows. If it does, not if, but when. Right here, this here, if you take a look here, you're going to see a type of entity. And what this is 5,000 years old or more. And as I mentioned before, what we have in Japan is called the Kofun Mounds and Kofun sites. And the caretakers of the Kofun Mounds are the imperial family, and they recognize only a couple of dozen of them or less. But across Japan, we have 170,000 Kofun Mounds, and this is one of them. And this one in here has cave entrances, and during sometimes throughout the year, there's actually candlelight festivals that are held in here. Unfortunately, I believe it was last year, the year before, they closed this off because it's actually right next door to an elementary school across the river, and people were catching wind of it. So people don't go there anymore, unfortunately. But these sites scatter all over Japan. We have Kofun Mound burial sites that are just right down the street from me here. Here's another, this is an ancient cemetery. And I don't photograph in modern cemeteries. I like to photograph in the ancient ones that are, we have no idea how old they are. We know some of the carvings are going back 3,000 to 5,000 years, and this is another Kofun Mound site. And it has an energy to it that's not negative, it's not anything. And I'd love to be here in the blue hour. It'd be a blast. Right here, this is a cave, and it was shaped as an eye. And this is actually 15 minutes from where I am right now. And it has a lot of legends to go with this one here, but I'll leave that for another time and to the imagination. This is an interesting one. This one here, I'm not sure of the age of this sculpture, but I don't think it's that old because it looks like it's a cement. It could be 70, 80 years old, but it kind of reminds me of the Ghibli, like the Spirited Away. Who is that, John? We were talking about the
Spirited Away. I can't remember the illustrator's name.
Yeah,
Kiyosaki?
this reminds. That's exactly it, and we didn't get a chance to look at one of his hotels. That's unfortunate that he was inspired from. Maybe we can take a quick peek. This is just another angle of this cemetery here. This one here is inside of Nikko, but nobody ever goes here. This is just at first light. Everyone's still sleeping in their hotels. This would be at 4:30, 4:40 in the morning, just when the light hits it. But the light only hits this particular location for 15, 20 minutes and it's gone. This is a sacred place where the shoguns are buried, except for Tokugawa Ieyasu. And that's Nikki over there in the background. That's lovely person from Maryland. And here is a sacred ceremony for the harvest festival. Prayers for the harvest. Another pagoda. Right in here, this is a little difficult to see, but in here, there's hundreds of Buddhist carvings on the ocean here, and they're all kind of dwindling away, if you can kind of see them. Should I zoom in a little more?
I can see that. Yeah, zoom in. I see a few of them in there. It's really interesting.
The quality's not the greatest, sorry.
It's okay.
And this is one of the unique parts of Japan. Not really sure who did it. There's an idea, but they're kind of continuing, and there's several hundred carvings in this one piece of rock, and you can go down there and you can get close to them. But it'll eventually erode away. It's a beautiful sight. It's on the Sea of Japan side. This is a traveler's place, temple. I love the shoes. I mean, should like to see anybody who could wear them. Hot springs, yes. With me, it's always hot springs. That drives everybody crazy. Here, this is an interesting one. Let me see, I want to get up here. And it's this is a cloud. And if you look down here, you can see that you see a walkway here going up, and there's kind of like another face kind of down in here. But this is the one that really hurt my head right here. And this is the same volcano that I showed you where the volcano at the foot of Mount Fuji had blown up and it was eating the forest. The actual volcano blew a couple of days just after this appeared. Not sure. It's just an interesting phenomenon. And I always have enjoyed capturing these. May it be an entity, a warning, what have you. I'm unsure. This here is a cloud cover that was originally right under that cloud is Mount Fuji. And then all of a sudden we get this type of thing that looks like a doll appearing there. And that's Mount Fuji right under that. People are pretty spooked coming out of a supermarket. And then the cloud then ended like that and it was finished. Oh, kind of a spirit in the sky. This right here is an ancient dragon carving that was done 3,000 to 4,000 years ago that's eroding. This is off of Akita Prefecture. And we have these all the way through Japan on the ocean side and different areas. Not many people go to them. They don't know where they are, unfortunately. And they should be preserved and studied, but archaeology has a minimum low in Japan. This is a shrine on an island, Sado Island, off of us, 40 kilometers away. It has some of the most amazing dragon carvings I've ever seen of anywhere. I could spend, I'm going to go back here hopefully this summer. I would like to spend 3 to 4 hours here. When we showed up here, there was nobody there. And then 10 minutes later, somebody came along. There's a security camera. And we have temples like this all over Japan. And there's a security guard, I guess he gets a beep, 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 and they come and check. But inside of these places are national treasures. So they keep them off of the tourist beat just in case someone has an idea to go in and kind of borrow something. It doesn't happen, but you never know. Dragons right off of the, I don't know, don't ask me what it is about dragons. You get these in Hawaii. John, you ever see them up on the big island, anyone?
No, I was just there last week, but no, I haven't seen that.
No, you gotta, I have them. I don't think I have them on here, but anywhere you have a volcanic area, you're gonna get these kind of low pressure volcanic, and they kind of like make these streaks in the sky and make it kind of look like dragons. I've seen this in Hawaii. I've seen them in Africa, Mount Fuji, different areas that have similar valleys. Oops, I go with that thing again. This one was kind of interesting, just in Kanagawa, and it was just during the golden hour. It's just unusual, something I've never seen before. I don't know if it's a horse or it's just something I've never seen. And I like to capture the unusual whenever I can. This is a shrine in Hakone. And here's me up in Hokkaido at the top of some mountain and putting my bolo down and kind of like, which way do I go?
So which way do you go from here?
Which way do I go?
What's next for you?
What's next for me? Vaccines are coming in. Vaccines are coming up, and then camping up in the highlands with snow monkeys. That's my next thing I'm going to do. I want to do some camping.
Well, I want to thank you. This has been great.
I enjoy
go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, I do enjoy your enthusiasm for photographing everything. I came in late. I got here about 11 o'clock or so, so I missed the preamble of whatever went on. So I'll go back and watch it. But really, thank you. This was quite fun.
This this year is bizarre. We were in a burial ground, an Ainu burial ground, the First Nations people of Japan. And we came across this one. I thought, it's just a bear. Okay, whatever. It's just melting snow. And then I came across this one, which is actually a character in Japan. I got out of the vehicle and I'm looking around. If there's no snow, nobody carved it, no footprints. And this is bizarre. We passed a couple more. I stopped and said, okay, this is too weird. I stopped because it kind of looks like I can't remember the animal right now, but it looks like an animal I know. And this is bizarre. Then we get another one that looks like a bear. I was just like, excuse me? And then we get this tree here. And I remember we drove around this mountain a couple of times. And when we came back, there's only one person that can verify this Tomohiro. And he can tell you that the tree wasn't there when we came back around.
Well, I'm going to jump in and say thank you again. I'm going to have to get going.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So, and thank you, John.
You're welcome. We'll be back Thursday with Peter Gordon
Okay,
in
great.
Ireland.
I'll be around. Thank you.
Well, take care, Ian. And Blaine, thank you so much. You have great enthusiasm, great pictures. This has been a lot of fun.
You're
I
welcome.
hope you enjoyed it. I know it's 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning for you now.
I don't know. I see the sun is coming up.
Okay.
Yeah. If you want to, are you going to stay on the line a little bit after or just cut here? Or
We're going to cut here because I've got a technician coming in to do some work on my furnace here.
okay, you take care. And I'm sorry we didn't get to the other 10 holders.
We'll
Sorry.
get part 2 at some point.
You want to do part 2? Yes, that's no problem. But I know we missed. I apologize that too many. Sorry. That's I don't know what to pick. I apologize for it. You know,
I sure would like to see part 2, especially images near Shimoda.
Yeah, I got them, and it's just
Good. Let's schedule that. Thanks, Robert.
Sure. No problem. I don't mind.
No question.
Arigato.
Cool.
どういたしまして。ありがとうございました。どうも。
Domo.
Thank you, everybody. It's been a treat. Thank you for having me. And I look forward to part 2. I don't mind. For me, this is normal waking up at 2 a.m. and going 24 hours. It's my passion.
Very cool. Well, thank you all so much. I'm going to stop the recording now. Thanks.
Thank you. It was good.
Cheers.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, John.